Hey everybody, and welcome to the corner where it's always freaking 90 degrees. And I am doing something a little different this time. I do not have a script, I only have bullet points. But for this video, I actually want a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, and it is the Twilight movies. I'm pretty sure most of y'all know what Twilight is, but if you don't, it's about this girl named Bella who moves to a small town and she meets a boy named Edward who she ends up falling in love with. And it turns out he's a vampire. And then there's another boy named Jacob that she ends up kind of having a thing with. And he's a werewolf. And they kind of get to a love triangle stuff. And then there's like other vampires. The vampire that wants her dead. They have these other like society of vampires that want her to be a vampire. Because I guess the humans can't know. I don't know. But I first saw these movies when I was like maybe like 15, 14, somewhere around that age. And I didn't like them. They were like my all-time favorite movies, and I don't think they were like thought they were like masterpieces of art, but I did enjoy them. And I still kind of do, but it's more of a guilty pleasure sort of thing. But there was always something about these movies that bugged me, even back when I watched it when I was younger. And I have two things I want to talk about. I'm going to do a two-parter. For this part will be me ranting about how the monsters work, because that was something that bugs me now and it bugged me back then. And then the romance, which I don't think I noticed as much as a kid, but I did see some signs, and now that I'm a little older now, I'm like, oh yeah, I see the issues here. So this video is going to be about talking about how the monsters work, or like the vampires, and what I liked and what I didn't like. I did actually want to get into the werewolves as well, but I don't think I'm qualified to speak on that, because the way that the werewolves are portrayed in the movie seems like they might be picking up from Native American lore. I don't know how Native American mythology handled werewolves and how that works in that culture. I am not educated enough to speak on that, so I am not going to say anything with that because I don't know. If you're watching this video and you are Native American, or you're knowledgeable in what that movie was doing, or like Native American mythology, please comment down below if they were accurate to that, because I do not know and I don't want to offend anybody or I don't want to speak on something I'm not that knowledgeable about. So, not going to talk about the werewolves because I don't know if they're taken from a different mythology, and they are accurate in that sense. So, yeah, not going to speak on them. But we are going to speak on the vampires, because they are obviously just taking from like trying to take from traditional vampire lore, so I can speak on that. Oh, by the way, these are just my opinions. If y'all like the way vampires are depicted in Twilight, you do you. I don't hate how they're depicted, but there's some things that bug me, so I just kind of want to rant. It's kind of just me doing like a goofy rant about how the movie bugged me about how the vampires worked. So to start off on a better note, I'm going to talk about the things I did enjoy about Twilight and how they portrayed the vampires. Okay, one thing I do kind of like is the idea that new vampires are a bit stronger than the older ones. Like when you first turn, you're a bit stronger, and like your senses are more heightened, and you're kind of more out of control, you're more unstable. And I don't mind that, actually. I think that could be very interesting. I don't think they're trying I don't think they're trying to say that older vampires are weaker. I think they're just saying like they have better control of it, so they can like save their energy and not like go all out. They only do if they have to, while newer vampires are just like that all the time until they get a little more experience and have more control in their powers and emotions, so they get to calm down. But besides that, like they're just very like strong. And I don't know. I like that idea. I don't hate it. I think it's a pretty good idea. I don't know. I like it. The other thing I do like about the vampires is the idea that vampires will choose to drink animal blood instead of human blood. That's actually something I use in my own stories. I have a character named Lance who's a vampire, and I imagine that he only drinks animal blood, not human blood, because he doesn't want to kill anybody or hurt anybody. So yeah, I know there's other vampire stories that have done that idea of vampires drinking animal blood instead of human blood. It's in Interview with a Vampire, the movie. It's kind of silly, but I know, like, was it My Babysitter's a Vampire had that, where she was eating rats. I do like the idea of vampires choosing to drink animal blood instead of drinking human blood. And then, okay, so there's another thing that I do like in Twilight with the vampires is the way the deaths are handled. What's a little weird, like it, but at the same time, I'm a little iffy about it. In Eclipse, when the vampires die, they kind of like make it look like shattering crystal because I guess like they're cold and like they're like not human, so they're like ice. I think it's probably supposed to be ice because they keep mentioning it. I was like, it's like ice or whatever, or it could be diamond too because of the whole sparkling thing, which we will get into. I don't know. When I first watched it, I was like, I didn't know what to think about it because a part of me was like, that looks cool. The effect of them breaking like ice or breaking like rock. I don't know, was kind of cool, but then I'm also like, it's also kind of silly at the same time. I think they did it because they didn't want to show too much blood, which, I mean, it's a vampire movie. I don't know why. I really don't know why they chose it like that, but I don't hate it. I think it's a cool concept of like them dying in a weird way. And it definitely in Eclipse, it gave them room to like try to go for more like violent kills because I know one of them they like ripped the dude's arms off, but like it looks like glass and also like rock. I don't know what it's trying to be. I'm gonna say ice just because it might have been rock. I don't know. You know, I'm gonna say rock, especially when Victoria kind of dies. It kind of looks cool with the head breaking off and it's like broken rock. But yes, like it's a cool idea. It's just it's a little off for me. Like I'm a little like on the fence about it. I don't hate it. It's a little weird, but I do kind of like it. Another thing with the way they die, I do like that they included in the story that to kill a vampire, you have to rip the head off and burn it. I think they also say you have to rip all the limbs off, but I think the head's like really what you gotta look out for. I do like that because I think that's something they have in the original Dracula. I don't exactly remember because I haven't read that book in a while. But if I remember correctly, in Dracula, when they went to go kill him, they had to put a stake through his heart and then chop the head off and burn it. Because they did that with Lucy, from what I remember, and then they did it to Dracula in the end. So, and that is definitely something I don't see in stories. Now, I don't get mad when stories don't do that because I feel like the stakes just a more simpler way. Like it's just less steps, you know. And I didn't even know that was a fit way you kill vampires until I read Dracula. So I don't hate when other movies don't use that fire thing, but I am impressed when stuff remembers that. So the fact that Twilight of all movies remember that's a way to do it, I thought that was kind of cool with Twilight to do. Like, oh my god, they remember that. Now there's a bit of a problem with this is that sometimes I feel like they're very inconsistent. Well, not very inconsistent, but they are a little inconsistent with how vampires die because something I did not get is when in Eclipse there's that one vampire guy. I forgot his name. It's not James. It's not James, but the other dude. I'll put a photo up of him on the screen so you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, the werewolves were after him and they killed him, but when they showed it, it was just them ripping him apart. And I'm like, did y'all burn him after? Because in this movie, in this franchise in general, you have to burn them. But yeah, you rip them apart because you have to rip their head off, but then you have to burn them. And they didn't say that they did that. I'm assuming they did because he never comes back after. But I'm also like, did y'all do that? I mean, I guess because y'all could just turn humans, start a fire, and burn them. I guess, but I feel like it's something they should have had like a quick like line about. He's like, "Yeah, we got him," and then like show it happening, and then like show like fires like a transition back, right? To show it like they did it right. I don't know. That's the only thing I know that it's weird because they're consistent with it after that, kinda. Well, yeah, no, they are because when they in Eclipse when they fight the New Blood vampires in Victoria, they say that they burn them and they show them burning them. Like I think they will the New Bloods in a pile burning them, and then Edward goes in and burns Victoria after or whatever. So like it's a thing, but for him they didn't say that one guy they didn't have him burned, so that was a little weird. I don't know. They forgot that, I guess. Okay, and another thing I don't mind, and I saw another video. This next part, I got this. I saw this in a video by a channel called Rant Central. I'll make sure to put a link to their channel in the description. Check them out; they're pretty good. But they also mentioned they like this, and once I saw that, I was like, "Hey, yeah, that's a cool idea." Like they kind of convinced me that it was sort of a cool idea. That society of vampire thing, I forgot their name. I'm not very good at remembering the stuff that happens in Twilight. But those one dudes, those vampire, like that vampire society that like keep everyone in check and is trying to like the one that doesn't like Bella because she's a human and they want her to become a vampire, you know, that whole thing. I don't mind them. I think they're okay. And I think I can always see the idea of like having a little society. I don't know. I don't have a big opinion on them. I don't hate them and I don't particularly love them, but the idea of one works. I can definitely see, because I think have other movies done that? I think some movies have kind of done that, where like vampires have like a bit of like a society, or just like a high ring of vampires, and that everyone kind of just listens to. Did Interview with a Vampire have that? I can't remember. I think they did, or they had something similar. They're kind of cool. I definitely like the idea. Personally, I don't really care too much about them, but I definitely like. I think the idea is like interesting. Now that we've gone through the stuff I do like, now I want to talk about the stuff I don't like. Yay! So the biggest thing for me is that they don't take much, if anything at all, from like standard vampire lore. Because, like, here's the thing. Most vampire movies I've seen definitely take some, like, liberties when it comes to, like, what they portray, or, like, how they portray vampires. But there's usually, like, a few things that they try to keep consistent. Like, the big ones being, like, stricken blood, being mostly night creatures, sunlight's a weakness, and a stake through the heart's how you kill them. This movie only kept one of those, and it was the drinking blood part, and I am so annoyed. Because, like, other movies, I don't mind. Like, I'm not gonna freak out if a movie doesn't say, like, the whole, oh, vampires can't be invited, or, like, mention holy water or a cross as, like, a weakness. I won't get mad, because I've seen a lot of vampire movies, and they always, some have different lore, some kind of mess with the idea of how a cross works, right? Like, in Fright Night, it only works if you believe in it, and Buffy, they don't have it work at all. And, you know, it changes. But with Twilight, it just kind of seemed like they didn't really take anything from it. Like, I kind of understand in a way why they don't show, like, all the weaknesses, because it's not like a vampire hunter story. But I feel like if you have vampires in your cast, you at least gotta, like, acknowledge what their weakness is. Like, basically set up what their powers are, or, like, how they work, and then go from there. And it's like, and it would work too, because I don't know if you're saying it's not a vampire hunter story, but like the first, almost all the movies are about fighting some vampires. I mean, it's vampires fighting vampires, but you would think the vampires would know how to kill each other because they share the same weakness. But okay, so things I did not have for vampires. The biggest thing that everyone talks trash about. And firstly, I don't like hate. I'm not like be like, oh, this is it's silly, but like I'm not like a hater of it. I'm just like, that was weird. And it's the sun thing where they sparkle. I don't know why. I mean, I know in the movie it says because like your skin's like ice, like there's like blood under it, so like it shines through. Why? I don't know. It's just kind of a weird choice, especially because sunlight is so integral to how vampires work. Like, it's again like the most standard thing is blood, the sun, being night creatures, and then the stake through the heart, and they don't keep the sun thing. Like, that's like the one thing. That's why, kind of a bit beside topic, but like Demon Slayer, I always saw the demons in Demon Slayer as like sort of vampire inspired. They're obviously still their own monster, or like their own creature, but it always made kind of think of vampires because of the sun thing. And I feel like the sun thing is so integral to vampires that they don't keep it. Well, they keep it, but they don't have like it be a weakness. It's just weird. Another thing they don't keep is they don't mention if garlic's a weakness. They don't mention it at all. But then in the first one, they're making Italian, which usually has a lot of garlic, unless they didn't add it. But like, I want to know, is garlic a weakness? Know if it is, and I don't think it is. They never mention it, and also they make Italian, which typically has a lot of garlic. I mean, not all the time. I know that. I'm not Italian, but there's no mention of a cross is a weakness. They don't mention if holy water is a weakness. There's no mention of if like inviting to your house. What I guess it's not, right? That's not a rule because Edward stalks Bella and watches her sleep, which is so weird. But that's for the next video. We'll get into that. With them, also another thing they don't add. Another thing they don't add is they don't have reflections because they have reflections. And I'm like, y'all couldn't even keep that. Like, if they can't see their reflections in mirrors. Now, I've definitely seen some people. I've seen an argument I've seen people make. Not for Twilight, but like in general, like the idea of vampires not seeing the reflection. It's something I saw with something like back in the day, like old times, mirrors were back with silver. And I guess, because silver is also, like, in some stories, silver is a weakness to vampires, so I think that's sort of died out now. I don't think that's usually used anymore. But it was. But then nowadays, mirrors aren't back with silver, so now vampires could see the reflection, because it was the silver that was, like, messing with it. Which, like, okay, but a part of me thinks that's not what Twilight was doing. They just didn't add it. Because I feel like with something like that, especially because like most stories, even with vampire stories set in the modern day, they don't take that idea of like vampires, you don't see the reflections, they still have it where they can't. So I think if Twilight was really going for that, which if they are, I mean, that's kind of cool that they thought that hard about it. But if they were going for that, I feel like they should have explained it a bit. Maybe Bella could have asked questions about Edward, like his vampirism. It's like, hey, why can't I see your reflection? And he would. He doesn't go to like a long explanation. He was just like, oh, mirrors are made differently now, and then people could research or something and be like, that's why, the silver thing. So like, my issue overall was like they took so little from vampire like lore, like what we know, that it almost feels like they aren't even vampires anymore. The only thing that's keeping them from being a vampire is the fact that they drink blood. And it's like, despite all vampires in different media change. If we talk about the Lost Boys has a different lore for how vampires work. You know, like for them, garlic doesn't work, but holy water does. And Lost Boys doesn't mention crosses, but that's fine because Lost Boys still keeps all stuff like the sun's still a weakness. You still have to kill them through a stake through the heart. You have to invite them in. So like they had all that. And then like Fright Night, they keep it where I think garlic is a weakness and holy water is still a weakness. A cross is more involved in Fright Night where it's just the rules around it kind of changes. Even Monster High, when it came to like Dracula Laura, kept more vampire lore than Twilight did. Another thing with the vampires in Twilight, because I talk about like the weaknesses, how many weaknesses are gone, but even some of the powers of vampires are gone. Another thing that kind of stands out for vampires is the idea of turning into a bat. That is not a thing in this movie, and it bugs me. Now, with what Twilight does instead, I guess to try to quote sort of make up for like not keeping all this stuff, is like for them to have individualized powers. But my problem is we only know like 3 of them. I don't think we ever find out about like the others. Like we don't find out what Jasper's power is. We don't find out what Rosalie's power is. I don't think we find out about Carlisle or his wife, whoever her name is. We don't find out about Emmett. The only ones that I can recall that we know the powers of is Edward, Alice, like some of the council people, like the one played by Dakota Fanning. I think Bella has one, and then her baby. That's all we get. That's the only ones we know. And I'm like, if you're gonna have like this power thing, have everyone have like say something about these people having powers, or just don't do it, or just give them all the same vampire powers, like the typical ones. Because then you wouldn't have to worry about like making up for everybody else, because then you would just everyone's the same. I don't know, because some of the typical vampire powers. Let me just give you a rundown. Typical vampire powers, or ones that you usually see. So like the big one is shapeshifting. Typically it's only a bat, but other stories have made it other things. Typically like typical vampires, it's a bat, a wolf, a rat, and some say an owl. But most stories just have it just be a bat. Like so that's a power. Another power is like, oh, they can turn into mist too. I forgot about that. They can turn into mist. Another power is hypnotism. They could do that, or like suggestion or whatever. They can hypnotize someone and like lure them in so they can drink their blood, or make them do whatever they needed. So that's a thing. Super strength, I think, is a thing. Speed as well. I don't know if it's like the way Twilight portrays it, because what Twilight does, it makes me laugh. It's just like the way they run, it looks so silly. I'm sorry. It's just like this, like the way it's edited too, like the way they like to put the effect on it just looks a little silly and typical. So basically, Twilight, they kept this idea of like the super strength, super speed, and immortality. That's the other one, which Twilight does keep with. So you had some powers to choose from. Like these are pretty standard, but now we have it where they are supposed to have all their own powers, I think, but then we don't even see half of them. I mean, I can get like not showing every vampire's abilities. I'm not asking like all the for like the New Bloods and Eclipse to get their powers and know what they are. But I think at least the main vampires that we care, like the Cullens, like you would think we would find out about all of theirs and not just Alice's and Edward's. And it's so weird. Did they ever even explain why Edward's power doesn't work on Bella? I don't even remember if they ever explained it. So if they did, please tell me in the comments, because I don't remember them doing that. But it's weird because it's just like if y'all couldn't really come up with any powers for all of them, just give them the standard. And I feel like they should have kept some of them. At least keep the shapeshifting. You know, at least keep the shapeshifting, because that would be cool. But no, you have to keep the shapeshifting for the werewolves, I guess, to make them different. Just don't have to turn to wolf. I don't know. God. my overall problem with the way the vampires are portrayed is that they take so much away from like typical vampire lore. Now I feel like I'm nitpicking, and like I don't hate it when they kind of change it on what like the lore is, or how what powers vampires have or what weaknesses they have. I've seen plenty of stories kind of flip between which ones they want to take, which ones they don't. But I feel like in the movies I've seen that do that, they're pretty consistent on like what they use. Like most vampire stories, like okay, so yeah, holy water, garlic, a cross, a sacred heart, which is another thing that bugs me about Twilight because I almost forgot to mention it. They don't use a stake. I do appreciate they use the fire thing, but it's supposed to be a stake and then that. Why is there no stake? Because I think I was watching one of the movie, it might have been the first one, honestly, where I was like, you could use that, to kill him, but no, sacred heart don't work, so. I kind of thought he was broke glass. I guess use it because I've seen movies where basically just be a sharp object, not just a stake. But yeah, Twilight took so much away from vampire lore because again, in other movies, yes, it alternates, but usually what they like the weaknesses and abilities they take from are all about the same. It's just kind of like what are we gonna do with them? I don't know. I was like, yeah. See, that's another thing with this. It's like I understand like they change it. There's even some stories vampire movies I love that doesn't have some of them claim like Lost Boys. I love the Lost Boys, but they don't do shapeshifting. But I'm okay with it. I think Lost Boys was good. It's still a good movie to like for me like not like mind it as much that they didn't do it. And I still kept a lot that I was like, that's cool. I could kept that. But Twilight just has so little of it that like it just bothers me. I feel like they should have kept more, like keep the reflection being gone. Maybe have them shapeshift so that at least like you don't even have to keep the shapeshifting to a wolf because you're trying to keep the wolf exclusive to the werewolves. So just have them shaped to a bat at least a bat. That's what most people remember it as. Have garlic be a thing because that would have been a funny moment if like we're making Italiano and Bella's like, wait a minute, does it have garlic in it? Can you eat garlic? And they're like, and like Rosalie, being all mad, it's like, we took it out, something. He's like, there's more not Italian food that's garlic, Bella. Like Rosalie just get really mad at her about it. Like that would have been funny. Like that would have been funny. I would have liked that. I don't know. Holy water could have been involved. I could totally see Bella like when they're running away from James or whatever, freaking like stocking up on holy water. And then she takes it with her when she goes to confront him, or like when he like lures her in at the ballet school because she's trying to say yes, it's her mom. Like you could have added it in the story, especially because there is vampire fighting. I'm over here saying it wasn't a vampire hunter show, but it kind of is. It's just vampires hunting vampires, basically. Like Blade. um, I was like, y'all could have added it in because then it would have felt more like vampires. Like Twilight vampires are basically their own league just because they took so little. Now, one thing I will say before I end this video, at least with what we give us, they are consistent. Besides the one dude's death, I don't understand. Maybe they probably did burn him. I don't know. At least they're consistent, and we are established that this is just how it works in this world. Which is like, okay, cool. Y'all kept it mostly consistent. I get it. I understand the rules. That doesn't mean I have to like it. So yeah, this they took too much away from, and it's just they don't feel like vampires. It just bugs me. I'm a big nerd. I like to research this stuff. Vampires are one of my favorite kind of monsters. One of my favorites like werewolves. Anyway, so the next video I am gonna make about Twilight is going to be about the romance and how much it bugs me. But yeah, so this is something that I really want to talk about. I always talk about it anytime I watch Twilight because though it's a guilty pleasure of mine, that and the romance always bugged me. It always bugged me ever since I first started watching it. So I'm finally glad to get this off my chest. This video's probably going too long and now I have to shut up. So if you like this video and you want to see the next part about the romance, please subscribe to my channel, like this video so I can get out to more people so you can see me rant about vampires for like 30 minutes. If you want to see my art, like the art in this video, I have a Instagram and a Kara, which I will link in the description. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you all enjoyed your time in the corner, and I will see you all next time. Bye!